And are back for our second episode or second time with a pod review here. And I mean, guys, we talked about doing this. Um, I mean, fuck, especially when you go back to the first time we did a pod review, we talked about not doing it as frequently. And I feel like, after if we did the first one after 15 episodes, I remember. Okay, no, we did the first one after 14 episodes, but now we've done 17 since. And I think this is a good time to kind of just talk about what we currently think of the podcast for not very long. I'm not going to go as long as the first about 35 minutes. But overall, what are your guys' opinions on the podcast at the moment?
Look, a lot has changed. From the first time we did the pod review to the second time now we're doing the pod review. Now, whether that's for better or worse, I think is subjective in a lot of ways. Depends what you like out of your podcast. But we have gotten more comfortable, is the word that I will use. Comfortable enough to be joking in some of the most wild ways possible. Which, to be fair, I think with the group that we have and what this has turned into, I think works out pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, like it's just so different from where we started and what was probably envisioned by any of us. But I feel like that's fine. Like that's a good thing, Like we're so far down this tangent and I feel like it works and it just I don't know, it just overall feels better. It's a better vibe.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been something we've touched on a little bit during the actual podcast with the fact that we are now getting a lot further off the rails or off topic, which I don't necessarily look as a bad thing. It's been like something that we've all talked about on the podcast as well, where, hey, we're perfectly fine going on these tangents, even though that some of them will be completely wild and some of them will be, not as far away from esports. It'll still be in the same kind of vein, but it's something that probably none of us expected to talk to go into it. We have done a lot of episodes, first pod review, and I think in that first pod review, it was at that one we were all just starting to get comfortable with it. I mean, I think all of us can say around episode, I think 7 or 8 is where there was a significant turn in it. At least that's what I feel like. What do you guys feel like? Where, like, what episode would you guys say like you guys really started to feel comfortable and felt like we were starting to hit a good like stride in the podcast?
That's tough actually, because a stride. I think the one where we actually hit a legitimate stride, which I would say it was earlier on, is when we eventually got to the hot sauce episode. Because hot sauce was the first episode that had any like really tidbits of being unhinged. Which that is all credit to the world to hot sauce, by the way. And then it felt like that kind of created a comfortability for us beyond that point. At least that's how I feel about it. I think there are also some really good examples. I think Mega's probably going to disagree, but for very good reasons.
Oh no, I think like that's the first example of like it getting unhinged, and then to be fair, we've had examples of it going a little bit too far unhinged, and I think
Oh yeah.
and this is no flack on the guest. I think it was kind of just we all were just in a good mood that day, so it got really unhinged. But Soav's episode, I remember specifically, we were so off the rails for so much of it, and I feel like at the very least in my mind, it kind of created like I don't want to call it a wall, but it was like a barrier of like, okay, that is maximum level of silly. Soab is like the farthest we should ever push it. Never go past that.
So in terms of like chill factor out of everybody that we have of like that guy that just kind of relaxes vibes, Soab is like in that top 5, and we like went like at the most hinged possible within a 22 episode span with him, and I feel kind of bad for that fact. But to be fair, the episode was good. I'm gonna say that we found our limit, and we're never gonna go beyond that. Hopefully.
I think with that, just finding our limit, it's we found our limit with what we were talking about with Soab, I think there's definitely some things with other people that we talked about in different like topics where we kind of went about as far off topic. But like I'm just looking at what I titled a lot of SOAV's chapters, and the first two are "Oh Dear God" and "The Normies."
That sounds about right, honestly. Um, yeah, we seem to have found our trajectory. And our trajectory when it comes to the podcast, a lot of the time in terms of insanity, is kind of like a half pipe. Immediately we jump off the rails a lot of the time with a lot of like wonky shit, and then cools back down because Dex and or Mega gets us back on track. I just sit here and enjoy it because hee hee ha ha, I get to be the quiet one sometimes. And then as things we get past the main questions, it's like, all right, how far can we take this until it has become too much?
Yeah.
You know, it is worth saying though, we're focusing a lot on the crazy factor, which to be fair, it is worth bringing up because that is what we have become. But drilling more into the point that we have become a lot more comfortable with this, I believe we've been able to get more out of guests previously that perhaps ones that earlier on, as great as they were, we didn't have that same energy to get stories or things out of them that perhaps we could now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I feel like we've kind of found a stride when it comes to that, especially with a lot of our current guests. Just being able to talk about just different stuff, whether it be we touch on stuff with esports, which I mean, granted, we still do talk a decent amount about esports, but it's really fun to figure out other stuff that like people really do, and those tangents are fun because of that. But I still feel like at the core of this podcast is like still that we have those first two questions. I still try to keep on adding in that like the guest introduces themselves, but it's really hard because if we do that, they start talking. They start getting to that point where it's like, okay, they're getting into why they got into it, and that's why normally when I ask that question, I was like, hey, only talk about the games that you work with, the roles that you do, and maybe the places that people would recognize you. And that's basically it because I don't want them getting into that hey what got you in question with that one.
Honestly, Mega, how do you feel about it? Honestly, see,
Um,
I I know you sound a little tired, but I'm gonna do what we do to guests and like force information out of you.
I
So
wouldn't call it tired, but that's a different kind of review that needs to be done by psychotherapists. But um, I don't like
cheers to that.
it. Like we literally started in such a box. Like we talked about it during the first pod review. I know, but I know we literally just talked about it when we were originally going to record this pod review on Monday night. Me and Dex were back and forth for a bit. We're like those earlier episodes, like the Will episode is what it constantly comes up because if you go back and watch that, I think me and Hunter said 2 lines a piece. Like
Did
we didn't
not
say
say anything.
anything. And it again, that's no shame on a guest or anything like that. Like we were just all so rigid, and we were kind of like stuck to like the concept of okay, we have to answer these questions, we have to do this, we have an hour to do it. Like it felt very like punctual. Like we had like a written out schedule for everything. Versus now it's like guest joins VC and we're just kind of like what's and as well as because we always joke about we're gonna cut in on an intro in the middle of a crazy thing. I feel like that's dialed back because it's no longer super outlandish for the sake of it. It's just like we're genuinely in the middle of a conversation, just talking about something, right? And that again speaks to the level of chill that we've kind of been able to foster, where it's just like it's much more casual. Everybody gets a chance to just like chat. We get those questions, that we get to ask about like how people got into esports and stuff like that. But instead of like give us the answer to this, like it's a dissertation at a college or something like that. Uh, it's like how'd you get in, who'd you meet along the way type stuff, and it's very very chill. It allows for follow-up and stuff like that.
Absolutely, and like we've seen a lot, especially with that like second question of what keeps people coming back. Like we've had a lot of interesting answers to it, but we've mentioned a lot during the actual podcast itself. Like a lot of times people will just say, hey, yeah, it's the people, especially at like the community, grassroots, tier 4, tier 3, whatever you want to call the spot where we normally still kind of do a lot of casting, it's mostly the people that keeps us coming back. And that I'm going to say this, it's kind of refreshing to hear that is the answer for so many other people that we always work with. Because I'm always fearful is that, like, hey, people are really just doing this because where I want to go with this. Either I want to say because they truly just enjoy doing it and they really like doing it. They don't necessarily care about the people, or it's just they're looking for something to do. And I'm always happy when, hey, they talk about just the people they.
No, 100%. I'm happy that we've gotten towards that area of like we've had in jokes from the start. Let's be entirely fair, but the fact that we get to see people talk about it like way more than I think people get to hear it outside of this podcast a whole lot, especially those that are more casual and don't necessarily look into like, hey, who does this, who does that. But that was also kind of part of the point of this thing was to show off those people and let them kind of have an ability to speak about whatever they want to talk about.
Actually, a perfect example. I not going to spoil, but literally when I was messaging the guest that we have coming up this week, he talked about literally how he would listen to the pod, how he himself was a listener to the podcast, and it was just something that he could casually listen to on when he was on the train, and I'd like that's kind of what I feel like the vibe is for a lot of people, where it's like we get to like everybody's just kind of casual, like it's not like some over the top thing. I'm slightly tangenting here, but that's also another reason I like kind of the way we've changed bits, as it were. Like, don't get me wrong, the Blue's Clues questioning was absolutely fun, but to actually be able to have, yeah, rest in peace, Mr. Salt. But like,
and as well,
have an actual, silly little thing that relates back to esports, and again, it's just nice. And then Hunter also has his question with like where'd your name come from type deal, and it's like again, like it relates back and it's much more casual. It's not like, hey, well, look, we're being wacky and creative. Like it fits.
Yeah, and I really like that was one thing that we really talked about in the first pod review.
Just jamming something in there because we can.
Yeah, like we wanted to. I think it was you who brought up like, hey, we need to have like some bit here or there just to kind of. I think you even said there like lighten the mood, get something out of the guests that we were really looking for, and I think it's really worked out truly well with that. Whether it be like you said the Blue's Clues thing, which I really did like that, and it was something where like I don't know if you were jokingly saying or if you meant it when you were saying like, why do I still allow you to do it? Because I really found the answers fun, and then we got to Soav, and again, the fuck.
So I'm just being able to say, yeah, no, I know the guy. I know the guy. But listen, it's just such a I truly was asking, like anytime that you let me down, I was like, I don't know why I was allowed to do that, because like again, it's fun, but like it truly just has nothing to do with anything. But like again, like being able to just be like, what grinds your gears, and specifically I want to kind of emphasize the pettiness that I'm going after when I'm saying it to people going forward. Simply because, like, the pettiness, you're going to get that same level that you got from the Blue's Clues question, in my mind. Like, just the same level of not like insanity, but just like tomfoolery would be the best word for me. Like that, like, and again, that's what I'm after. I want like a funny, silly moment.
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of goes back to something like I kind of talk with you guys about a lot here, especially after the podcast. Like when when Hunter and you and Hunter are talking, it's like I don't want to break that up and say I might have a question lined up and I want to ask it, but I want you guys to have your time. And you mentioned or we already kind of referenced the Will episode. Granted, I mean Will English is someone. I mean, I think at least well respected in the sports scene, at least here in the NA. But it's also at that point that was our biggest person we've had on the podcast,
Mhm.
And like I remember once that episode ended and Will left, like I was apologizing to you guys profusely because I knew you guys were just sitting there, just listening to me and Will talk back and forth for a little over an hour and a half, or just under an hour and a half, which, like, I know those situations. It's basically just sitting in a class in college, not fun. Like, but I always get so like happy when you guys are actually like talking, whether it be to the guests or asking or just going on the tangent that we're kind of going on. You guys add in stuff like it's always really really fun or really really funny.
Do I drop a truth bomb on both of you that neither of you know right now? Do I do
Yeah,
it?
of course you
Oh, no.
do. Make we
Mhm.
need to have a selling point for
Wait,
this pod review.
yeah, do you want it to be a part of the pod review or do you not want it to be a part of
Yes.
the pod review?
Yes, no, because it's part of the podcast and it's really
Yeah,
funny.
it is.
Because you talked about how you're like, oh no, you feel so bored sitting in class. Every single recording, and I shit you not, every single one, albeit besides I think Spectrion, because it was so early on. Anytime we are doing the podcast, if you see my eyes flicker around, that's because I'm playing Minecraft parkour, and I have it up every single time. I am just doing Minecraft parkour. Like not like watching it like a zoomer, but like actually just playing it. Because it's something that is so low focus that I can actually still listen to the conversation, but it's something I can still give attention to. That way, if it's something truly bores me, I don't have to do anything else.
And I think you've mentioned that before, but like you've definitely mentioned it during some podcast recordings where like, yeah, I'm playing Minecraft right now.
Well, I say that, but like every time it gets laughed at, and I don't know if people know I'm being serious. So this is me telling you for a fact I am playing Minecraft parkour every single time.
I think every time you would say it, like I would always just say, okay, he's probably joking, but in the back of my head, I'm like, I don't think Mega would necessarily joke about this. He might actually be doing it. Hunter, are you gonna tell me
Yeah.
you've been playing games as well?
I mean, I always have something going on in the background, and it's not. It's again, it's like low focus. It's never the same thing every time. But there are times where it's like, hey, I'm going to keep my focus here, but at the same time, I know the times where I talk a lot and when I don't talk at all. I know those points where they exist. So sometimes I will be looking off and I'll just be either going through Twitter or like whatever it may be. I'm chilling essentially.
I think it brings up the bingo space that Headrammer made of Hunter
Yeah.
zones out for 15 minutes.
that does still happen from time to time. In fact, time to time is not even accurate. It just still happens. But yeah, it kind of is what it is, you know. I'm the quiet guy sometimes, but honestly, sometimes that's okay. Same.
Awesome. Again, and it's literally just like it's at the end of the day, we're just doing random stuff because
True.
it's not even like, oh, we're bored with the podcast. It's just like, bro, I can't sit here and sit still for that long. Are you kidding me?
No, hell no. I got the ADHD, bro. I can't fucking just sit here.
See, I really should just go to a doctor and see and try to figure out if I actually have ADHD or not, instead of just like lying to myself and saying no, I'm fine
Yeah.
without ever getting a diagnosis.
Yeah, give this the good old self-diagnosed ADD.
Well, no, I hate self-diagnosing so much, so I purposely am like, nope, I don't have anything, I'm fine. And everybody around me is like, you sure about that?
You're trying to hit it with the what is it, the placebo effect? Is that what I'm
No,
referring to correctly?
No.
I mean, same ballpark, but
It's similar. It's like I forget what specifically it is, but it's like there were experiments where it's like if you I'm not trying to go a side tangent, but there are people like, hey, like, oh, this thing right here, it'll make your headaches go away. And turns out it's just an empty thing that does fucking nothing, but your brain believes it'll do that, so sometimes it does. I know that's the placebo effect.
So let
Pretty
me
sure.
let me tell you guys my ADHD thing with this podcast, because most of the time,
Mhm.
like I'm the person who's like asking the questions and writing stuff down.
Mhm.
If it's ever like you two and the guest talking and I'm kind of just sitting there letting it go, if there are the moments where I just kind of like I'm listening to everything. I'm listening to everything you guys are saying. I'm not perceiving it at all. I'm hearing you guys talk, but it's like I forgot how English works. So I'm sitting there like, okay, what the fuck were they saying 5 seconds ago? Because either I'm gonna jump in here or I'm just gonna let you guys go for another 30 seconds. And it's like something where I'm quickly trying to like piece together what you guys are saying based off what you were just saying as I'm starting to really focus back in on it. And a lot of the times where I think one time I think either Hunter or Mega you guys threw it to me and I was like, yeah, absolutely, and then I just moved on with the question rather than you guys were talking about.
Mhm.
But I mean, so one thing with the podcast though, especially since the last time we did this to now, um, there has been a a big change in the amount of views we've really gotten, whether it be on Spotify, which granted Spotify kind of always averages out about 1 or 2 viewers or listens per episode, but YouTube actually has really like blown up a little bit. Every podcast episode minus one has gone above 20 views, and we finally got our first one with 50 views at like yesterday. Like the 50th view came on it yesterday. And I think that's honestly impressive that we're getting that kind of consistent number, because we talked about a little bit in the first pod review, like, hey, we're starting to get like in that mid-teens area. Now we're starting to kind of average out around the high 20s, low 30s, which I think is really, really good considering, like, still, we've talked about a little bit. This is a very much a niche podcast. Like, it's esports, and then you're adding in the production side of it, which, grant, there's a lot of people who really do like it because they work in it or do it as a volunteer. But then if you're just someone who likes esports, probably isn't necessarily the thing for you. What we're averaging right now, I think, is really, really good.
It's perfectly fine. We have consistency at the end of the day is what we have. There be people that are coming back every single week to listen, which is mind-boggling in a lot of aspects. But to be fair, at the same time, it's not always easy as us to look back and realize, hey, we have done 31 episodes of this, which means that is the equivalent, I believe, of doing this for like 6 or 7 months straight without a hiccup.
Hunter, let me remind you this. We started this the first week of the year.
Yeah, that is insane.
The first
If we've been
episode of
trying to get this wrong, we're gonna
Well,
have a
well,
big-
if you want to count the prototypes, then yeah, that yeah, 100%.
Well, the prototypes actually wait. Well,
Because the prototypes are a little older. Well, because they were done earlier, but they were uploaded like after we started already recording real episodes, right?
yeah. Well, no, they were uploaded. Like, we did the first test one on a Monday, the second test one the following Monday, and then we went with the third episode, or the third test, which was actually the first episode, that next Monday, which I believe. Right, I guess our, if we want to go by the day we record our first episode, is January 6th.
Did we really?
Oh yeah, and that's
Yeah.
what's crazy.
No,
is
that
looking
intro must
back
have
at
been
this,
great.
Had to have been.
It was
had to
with
have been.
Person. Like,
Yeah.
it was with Person, but it was also around that time where like we were okay. I was telling everyone to like basically shut up. We're gonna start the podcast. I'm gonna intro this. And I think I don't know what episode we kind of broke away from the normal kind of introduction and just went straight into like mid conversation. But we kind of talked about that already. I really enjoy that because, like you guys said, it just shows that we're actually just having a conversation, really relax before we actually get started.
100%. And I like that we've gotten to that point in a lot of ways where we can just be fully comfortable and just do our thing the entire time. And obviously we all freaking want that. You know, we don't want to come in here and, you know, be how we were from the get-go, which was, you know, essentially Dex having a one-on-one interview with me and Megalass, just eating popcorn, watching back, having a good time. Which again wasn't a fault of you. It was just we hadn't figured out how to really incorporate everyone as easily, because to be fair, as much as we knew each other, we were not nearly as knowledgeable and I don't want to say familiar because we've known each other for a long time, but God forbid I have we spend God knows how many hours a week talking to each other now at this point, especially between myself and you, Dex. Like, I've seen you every day this week now, and that trend continues tomorrow.
And then Saturday and potentially Sunday. And then it starts right back up on Monday. And then, nope, Tuesday probably not, unless something comes up.
Probably not. Unless South America does some weird shenanigans.
But, I mean, what, like, 31 episodes down, 32 is going to happen next week. Like, I think the biggest thing is from the start till now is we really kind of learned how to actually do this podcast. Like, and there, like, you could really go back and watch those first 5 episodes, or 5-6 episodes, and say like, okay, yeah, or hell, just go all the way to the Will episode, because we were really rough around the edges. We were very like timid, I feel like, when it came to just being able to talk about stuff. But I think now we've gotten it down. There's not that much dead air anymore that happens during an episode.
I don't think so either. We have like our momentary things of silence, but I don't think that matters in the slightest. We're just here trying to have a good time. Honestly, not trying. We are having a good time. But also, I realize you give that time of silence for me and Mega to come on scenarios, and sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. You know, it is what it is. You know, don't know where I'm really going with this tangent at this point, but all I'm saying is we're doing our thing. We're not forcing anything. We're just letting it flow, and I think that creates for a really good product for what, 3 of us can do. You know.
Mega, do you have anything you want to add to that one before I go into the next little topic of?
No, I mean, kind of hit all the nails on the head. I'm just kind of. I actually don't have Minecraft Parkour open this time. I want that known.
I was gonna ask.
You're good.
No, I am focusing. Yeah.
But one thing, especially in these past 5-6 episodes, really, it's happened a lot. At least in the last 4, is that we've now broken the record for our longest episode, and this is something that me and Mega talked about after our podcast on Monday. We were actually recording this on Thursday, not Monday, directly after the podcast. Where I think, Mega, you brought up is like we had the 1 hour, like, okay, gonna start wrapping up in the hour 30 marks. Like, that's our drop dead point where we're just gonna stop. But I think you brought up a really good point, which, like, we're just going along with the conversation that at some point, like, we just lose track of time because we are truly enjoying everything that we're really talking about. But, like, would you guys like to see us kind of, or the episodes kind of go back down a little bit in time, or are you guys fine with potentially going 2 hours? I think a 2-hour long podcast on be a little bit long, but if we're having fun while doing it.
I will say, this is genuinely how I feel about it, is that it depends entirely on the guest. Like, being entirely real, some people just are personalities and have that ability to keep going on for that long, and in putting it in layman's terms, putting up with our shit for an extra 30 minutes. Some are on board with that, some not quite as much. They're there to have their fun, do their thing. They realize, hey, it's 90 minutes in. I don't know how much longer I can do this. I don't know. But I would be genuinely fine either way. But it's like, if you have on specific people, the mindset is, oh, we know this is going to be a long one. Like, when we have a Spectreon like episode again, or an Echo episode again, you know that's probably going 2 hours. You just know off the rip.
Yeah, like the guest certainly plays a big factor in it, and like I'm not trying to call like any specific person out,
No.
right? Because at the end of the day, a guest, like, to sit there and say it's like, oh, a guest is going to make us go shorter. No, it's just some people are not as sociable, right? Like being real, right? We are in esports. There is 2 people that are put in front of a camera, and a team of people that are always put behind it. And chances are the team of people behind it chose to be there for a reason. Now, are they still comfortable to come out and, talk about stuff sometimes? Absolutely. And we love when they do, because then we get to gas them up even more and be like, hey, look, it's great. But that like if an episode is shorter, again, it's just like at the end of the day, it just means that we just like the time sometimes just you stop talking. Like it's just you've said what you need to say, you recounted the stories, then you're like, oh man, this is fun. Unless we tangent about something, I've got nothing else in the tank. So I mean, in that sort of context with what you're asking, Dex, I would say I don't know if I would like try to hard commit to a stopping point at like an hour 30, but I don't know if I would I don't know if I would try to guarantee 2 hours either.
Yeah.
I think like in my mind, unless which I'd have to recheck where the YouTube algorithm's at right now. But unless the algorithm ever dictates a specific length, I don't think we should. I think the general sentiment of being like an hour 20, hour 30 in and like starting to wind down there, like that should kind of be, the general point that we're at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, but like you guys brought up one thing where we kind of just go off on a tangent, and like I'll say this: the Kothar episode, the one that we did 2 weeks ago, or episode 30, I think that was one where like I looked at the clock and it was like, okay, we're an hour 10 in, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start, trying to just, wind it down, get Hunter and Mega to ask their questions, and then get Kothar to ask their question if they want. And then it went on another 40 minutes because I forget what we ended up talking about, but there was something there at the end that we just ended up going on about. What is it, air fryers? God damn it.
There was a lot of we had like the whole air fryer arc. Honestly, we've had a lot of arcs and everything that we've done. Everything with Blue's Clues to air fryers.
Talk about air fryers way too fucking much on this podcast, on this esports production podcast.
It feels like this might somehow be my fault. I don't know why.
I'm waiting for you to put it on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm deciding which one to put up. I'll put up the PUFA one. We'll do the transition for it.
Transition and everything. There it is.
Transition. Clearly, you don't own an air fryer. I need to get the Bull Skunk version of this one, honestly.
Hopefully we're able to get him on soon.
It's an actual air fryer.
I was about to say, like,
yeah, no, I dropped the ball on that one. I
was gonna say for like future guests coming up, like, there's like I'm gonna be so real. When we first started this, I thought we would get to, because I remember we talked about like episode. We weren't sure, but at some point we knew we'd want to do like people could come on a second time, tell
30.
more stories or what have you. But in my mind, I fully believed by episode 30 we'd run out of people. I fully believed in my heart I was like, we're going to run out of people. But sitting here as we just finished episode 32 with Shiny, right? 31 with Shiny. And knowing the list of people that we've talked about or just have, we literally have a channel of with ideas in it and things like that. It's like we're gonna be here. We're just gonna be doing this for goodness knows how long.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great. There's gonna be so much opportunity to get people on, and I'm just looking for the one thing I will say, and I'm maybe slightly guilty of this because I've been the one bringing in some guests recently, but I feel like it's been a little bit caster heavy recently, and again, I feel like that might be my fault. But what can you do? Blah.
Yeah. What, like, of the last, 7 that we've had, or if you want to say the last 10 that we've had, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them ended up being casters, which, to be fair, I think to an extent is fine because we are 3 casters putting on an esports, production over here, essentially. And I think it's okay that we lean towards that because that is what we are more familiar with and it's easiest for us to talk about it. But that's why we have different people on. That's why we have, just for examples, people, names, people like Unfeatured on here. We have people like Hippie on here who obviously not people that go out there and cast, but is a different side of esports that we don't fully understand. It's only things that we have seen glimpses of, and we can kind of be a bridgeway for people who we bring in that are super knowledgeable of it, and the group of here that doesn't know jack shit. So we can kind of close the gap, so to speak. I mean, that is true. Some people don't know a whole lot at all.
Yeah.
And it's not on them. It's just sometimes it's not as easy to be like, oh, yeah, I know exactly how that works. And King's Row appeared out of nowhere. What are you doing here?
Yeah, and I mean, I'll say, if we don't, not counting the spec episode, which was our second test episode, the first 7 people we had on this podcast, our first 7 guests, 6 guests, my bad, were behind the scenes. If you want to count Headrammer as a caster, go ahead, but I felt like we talked to him more about running the league and doing more prod stuff. Then we had Joker, and then we had Joker at episode 7, and then didn't have another caster until Hot Sauce at 11. Then we went on a little bit of a run of casters, but still, like, we've had on people who make graphics. We've on people who do a lot of stuff on social media. We've had social media managers on, which I mean, while I've said, like, they aren't necessarily part of the production, they are still part of the overarching thing of behind the scenes of esports. Still very good to have on. And I think right now, honestly, if we were to go through and count all this, I think we would be at a 50-50 thing. And yeah, Mega, like, I have to agree with you. Like, I thought by the time we got to episode 30, we would also kind of run out of people to ask. And that's why I said we're gonna make it to 30 and then start asking, or that's gonna open us up again to start asking people to come back on, because we could find someone that's been on while we're still looking to find someone who hasn't been on just yet. But right now, like Mega said, like Hunter has talked about, and we have that channel, we have like 5 to 10 names in that channel that have not been on yet. And it's been, whether it's been me and Hunter talking about it or me and Mega talking about, like, people that we would like to have on this podcast at some point.
No, 100%. And I'm excited for that to come down the line. And the fact that we do have this many names just in consideration means that we have a lot of longevity. Now, obviously, not everybody is free every single Monday. You know, we've had issues in the past trying to get people on. Dex obviously knows this better than anybody about that scenario, but for the most part, he has made it work and gotten them on. So hopefully that trend continues as it have, because while we've had, you know, a couple of close calls, certainly, we've been pretty consistent. Or I should more say, you and Mega have been very consistent, since I think the only person I've genuinely brought in was Hot Sauce. Literally, my only contribution to this podcast has been Hot Sauce.
Your only contribution was the one that we all kind of agreed on. That's when we started to go off the rails.
It's noticeably longer than the others. Like 112, 117, 113, and then the middle just 130. It's like, oh. Slight jump point.
The man started talking about knee picks and we lost it.
Bro, he did.
Like, no,
I never got them, by the way.
That's another thing. Like, I've said it, especially to you guys, like, the fact that all 3 of us have been available 31, actually at this point 33 straight Mondays is insane. I always thank you guys so much for that. And the fact that we've been able to find at the same time 32 people who have also been available on a Monday night, 32 different people, has just been nuts. We've talked about in the past that Monday is kind of the slow day for esports just in general, at least in like what I've talked about, the community, the tier 3, tier 4 scene. Monday is kind of a slow day, but like, we've now gone 33 straight weeks, and this is the thing that, like, I think I talked to a little bit about you, a little bit about with you, Hunter, was, I mean, 31, 33 straight weeks is insane. Would you guys ever potentially just want to have an off week just to say, like, let's just take a little bit of a break, we'll have 1 week, and we'll come back in? And, like, I saw Hunter shaking his head, and I'm also kind of in agreement with that, because it's the same thing of why when we first started it was a big thing, like, to say, hey, we're going to do this every Monday. Because my fear is still, if we take one Monday off, it'll come to that next Sunday, and I won't reach out to anyone. And then it'll be Monday, and someone will say, hey, is the podcast happening tonight? I'll be like, shit.
Yeah, I feel like if we were to want that 1 week break kind of situation, I feel like we would have to double record. Do one on Monday, do one a different day of that week, and then just debut it that coming Tuesday and have that Monday off. Which maybe there's a time in the future where it's like, hey, like we know like Dex is going on vacation or Mega is, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an excuse for you, Mega. You just might sleep in. Who knows?
Going on vacation.
Yeah, going on vacation. I mean, you're literally at Hanamura right now on vacation, like putting in the grind set right now, doing all this while on vacation.
Absolutely crazy that like I already was sitting here hating on myself because I was like, you know, we're saying that we're all here all these weeks. How many times have I dipped early for scrims and stuff like that?
I mean,
And then immediately it's just like
that's fine.
immediately it's like, oh yeah, you could sleep in. I'm like, all right, so I'll just be heading up to the roof after this, and there will be a mega stain on the concrete.
Christ. I mean, to be fair, we both made the podcast time change in different situations. So like it's fine. As long as you're winning the scrims, that is. If you're losing them, then like, you know, stop.
But Mega, what's your kind of thoughts on it? Again, 33 straight Mondays, and like Hunter did say, we've moved around times. Funny enough, the one time we actually moved the podcast up, I don't think I needed to. Because I don't think, Mega, you didn't have a scrim that night, and Hunter had originally talked to me about having something at 8 o'clock. I don't think that happened. So it's funny the one time, the one time we moved it up to 6, the recording to 6, it was like, oh, we didn't need to. But we've been very flexible with the time, which I think has been another big reason why we've been able to kind of keep it up consistent.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like messaging the guests as well is just like having the obviously we have had some scheduling issues before, we've talked about it, but like genuinely like sitting here messaging people and they're just like, oh yeah, this Monday at 7 p.m. it works, and I'm like, is this just a good time for people as long as they're NA based or DGen and EU, as I'm finding out? I mean, like, it's working out. Granted, at whatever point we get Avril on, don't know how that's going to work. That's going to be a time zone and a half to figure out. Well, but
there's also a couple people that I want to get on. Like I'll say this right now, I want to get Clutch Key on at some point, but he lives in Hawaii, and I think that's like 6 hours back from us.
So it's not like 1 in the afternoon.
Yeah, but I think it's a little bit harder for him, considering I think he does have a job.
No, just call off work for the day. You're on the podcast.
Yeah,
buddy.
Literally just call off work, bro. Like, it's just that easy. Tell them you can't show up. What are they gonna do? Come get you?
The one thing I will say is, ever since the Fletch episode, I've kind of had this like sick feeling in my stomach, because like he was like the shit no one else is available, break glass button, and we really haven't had that since him.
No,
unless Dex.
I've had one. I've joked about it a couple times. It was the break glass in case it's in need of spec.
True.
Spectreon's second episode will purely be if somebody else is unavailable.
Yeah, like that. Like I always kind of held spec there because like test episode we talked about wasn't really a real episode for him, and like I've had an idea for a bit the next time he does come on, but I'll tell you guys after this. But hey, I think we've already gone on longer than the first one. Let's just do this to end this, and then to end this review. What do you guys really want to see here in the next, let's say, 15 to 20 episodes by the time we do the next pod review? Remember, if it's 20 episodes, that is basically the end of the year, like the actual end of the year. So what do you guys want to see necessarily? Either a slight change, a big change, or just something we want to just keep on doing next like 15 weeks?
I want us to keep having fun bits, because Mega's been carrying in the bit department, where I think it's entirely fine that we have a giant subsection of the podcast that's dedicated to bullshit sometimes. But in the beginning, it's very structured. Near the end, it's very structured. I don't necessarily feel like we have to change the middle, but maybe if there was another thing or two like in there that we could start consistently doing. I don't know off the top of my head, quite honestly, but there are things we could think of. Like genuinely, there is something we could do. Like, I don't know. I don't have examples because you know what? I'm not the brains here. I'm not the brains of the operation. I'm just the white boy who doesn't click heads. Okay, they're the ones that think of things.
Yeah, I can click heads.
Nope, sure as hell don't. Gonna click my own head.
What the fuck am I?
Okay.
Go ahead, Mega.
First off, there's only room for one person wanting to end their own life on this podcast, so you need a new bit there, Hunter.
My bit is asking people what their fucking name is, man.
Okay, but like before I just want to say, like, think about this for a second before I actually answer what was asked of me.
Yeah.
If we wait 20 episodes, and this is honestly like calling out, I think this is what we should do. Our next pod review should be after the roast at 50.
Of course. Yeah, it's just gonna be us like bawling our eyes out for 30 minutes.
Just
Like-
everyone leaves, so we're just sitting here saying, "God, we're fucking awful people, y'all. Let's talk about the podcast."
It's gonna be. I don't know if anyone's seen American Dad before.
Mhm.
But there's an
Roger's
episode where
breakdown.
Roger asks for like a roast. He gets one, and then he just gets on stage and starts bawling his eyes out. Like, why would you say such hurtful things?
But yeah, literally, I think that's what we should do. But in terms of like what we should do for the podcast, like I think we should just keep everybody has their vibe. I'm gonna be real. I definitely think I need to tone down the actually telling people how I feel, aka wanting to jump off a bridge parts. Probably need to start cutting that out
Maybe.
a bit more. It doesn't really fit the vibe. But also, like, I have been thinking about like different not like ideas, but different like segments you could call them to throw in the middle. Like I think crazy idea for a segment. If depending on how much prep time we get on the person that week, we could pull up VODs of them, either VODs they observed, produced, or casted, and be like, hey, do you remember this? And it's whether it's embarrassing, funny, whatever it is. Just as like a fun little thing in the middle.
Down for that, especially with the person we have coming up on Tuesday or Monday, Tuesday. There is definitely a lot of opportunity for that there, but like, I like the one thing that coming like for these next couple episodes, I will say this: there definitely will be times where, hey, we're gonna have someone back in, and granted, it will be probably because like, either something is happening where either say like it's Headrammer CGL starting back up, or say it's Echo because Calling All Heroes is going through a split right now. So or a stage right now, my bad. Once that ends, getting her in here, I feel like that would be a fun time to get her back in. But as well, like we've in the last couple episodes started to get like more well-known names. I feel like starting to get into that point, we are truly, at least it seems like we're starting to get a little bit more recognition podcast, and people are perfectly fine being on it. So we're starting to get more what I would say tier 2, fringe tier 1 people, which is really, really fun. And that goes back into the whole joke where we have where Reinforce is going to be on at some point. It's getting ever so closer, Megalass. How'd the email go?
Yeah,
I
we're
didn't
sending
get
email
anything. But I'm gonna be so real. Like, I don't really care about the size of
Yeah.
the people. And I think like
No.
I think that's one thing as well. Like, not to tangent into a whole nother conversation, but like I like the joke behind the scenes for the viewers is like I will straight up just go message someone that like Dex and Hunter are just not like in awe of. I'm not sitting here saying they're starstruck like children or something like that, but it's like I'm willing to go push the envelope just to be like, hey, why not? Let's go see if we can talk to this person. Um, and while that's cool and all, I don't really care about the number next to their name. Like in my mind, if I'm reaching out to somebody or if I'm thinking about who would be a good guest on the podcast, I'm not thinking of a number. I'm thinking of who's going to be able to come in here, have some fun, and tell some good stories. Like that's what I'm after forever and always. And like there's so many of the people who I could go look and they have like maybe 3 followers on social media that I know for a fact have some pretty good stories that we have listed in this channel here. It's just, it's just a matter of reaching out to them, figuring out what their schedule looks like. And I I, I just think it's very important to note that as bigger guests get mixed in, like yes, it's gonna be an awe-inspiring thing to be like, oh look, this person, and their episode probably gets more views than another episode or what have you. But at the end of the day, everybody's telling stories, having fun, and telling why they got the into esports, and that's the entire fucking point. So every episode's a banger in my opinion, except for Spectrum, because we hate Spectrum.
True.
I did not expect Hunter to say true there. But yeah, absolutely. And like another thing, like I would love to branch away a little bit from only getting people that like we've worked with in Overwatch, and kind of like what I think talked to you guys about a little bit in the first episode in general was like, hey, I want to get people League of Legends, Valorant, Siege, more Rocket League, hell, Minecraft, fuck it. Yeah, sure. Let's get some Minecraft people in here if there's esports for that. More Nintendo ones. Granted, we do have at least one name in there for someone who is Nintendo. Fighting games. Fighting games is one I really want someone. I do know a couple casters. I just haven't been able to reach out to either. But yeah, like Mega said, it doesn't necessarily matter that the number next to their name. It's just us telling stories about why we truly, at the end of the day, what we really want our podcast to be.
I could not agree more, Dexatron. And the reason why I'm not really responding much is because this has reached its natural conclusion.
Yeah, but is there anything else you guys want to say before we sign off for this pod review?
By episode 100, we are going to have like
Sideshow.
Oh no, I wasn't thinking of like a guest. Like,
Oh.
sure, if you wanted to say a guest, I was
World
gonna say by
domination.
episode 100, we're going to have like so many bits. It's gonna look like it's just gonna look like some chaotic mess. This overlay won't exist anymore by episode 100. I'm calling it now.
I'll have 20
It
different
will be
overlays for every single.
True.
But yep, that will do it. I think that's a good point to end it. Again, went a little longer than what I both told you guys, or told both you guys that we probably would go. But hey, again, it's just like the podcast where we just get onto a topic and just keep going, which I'm perfectly fine with. But guys, as always, thank you, Hunter. Thank you, Mega, so much for joining me for this pod review. And everyone watching, thank you so much. We'll be back as always with an episode on Tuesday. Make sure you tune in then, because like we've been hinting at here, we know who it is for the first time in a while. Actually, no, we knew Tiny way before the fact last week. But hey, doing a lot better now with scheduling people. Again, Mega, thank you for that. But everyone, that'll do it for this episode of Pod Review. Make sure you tune in Tuesday for another good episode of For the Love of Prod. Until then, see ya.
Bye.